How's everyone doing? Doing good? Hey, yeah, cool, cool. Yeah, I mean, I just don't want to waste the time on talking about some practical tools. There was a guy who talking about the stable diffusion, so there's no need to cover something like this. More or less, I think I would like to tell about the management and AI features, how to make the real implication of the AI in the management process. And this is not easy, but it's not hard work, believe me. This is very useful. Just a question, how many of you have the ChatGPT account? Wow, quite a lot. How many of you have the paid account? It's quite a few people. I mean, you won't regret this 20 bucks per month. It's really worth it. The GPT-4, arguably much better than the GPT 3.5, whatever. So, without further ado, just spend those money. You will learn much more with that. And the topic of this presentation is, can AI make the game for you? The answer is no. I mean, we're not on the stage of the pretty super smart AI which can create the game just with one prompt. And believe me, I tried a lot of auto GPT tools which can make auto prompting. In most of cases, you spend a lot of money and get the garbage back. How it went. One day I spent 170 bucks and I regret it because there are no good results at all. So answering the question, can AI do the game for you? Today, no. Maybe tomorrow. Maybe day after tomorrow, but not today. A little bit on my story. So I used to do a lot of management. So from the producer role at tinyBuild, then I was in charge of a lot of projects, Hello Neighbor related projects. And at some point, it was like a big amount of team with all the management, all the management issues and stuff. And this is not new. You have a team, you have to manage those people. You always will have an issues. Maybe those are the same issues, maybe the new one, you will discover. But this is just a practical question of how you're dealing with the issues. And if you get more and more teams, you have multiple layers of leadership, yet issues not gone anywhere. Even with a lot of leaders, sincere, great leaders, influential, we still have an issues. And then I started trying AI. And there were not many practical implications, I would say, 2 years ago. And then try ChatGPT, man, yes, I think it was October last year. And I tried the ChatGPT, and then a couple of months of just thinking, what is that? Because, I read a lot of stuff about AI. I was subscribed on variety of newsletters about AI, and then you have this in your hands. What are you feeling? I don't know, what guys are you feeling? Just typing something in ChatGPT. Is it something that excites you? Hell yeah! No? Doesn't. As for me, I figured out that this is a new way of thinking. Because with AI, you can have lord of information, all the humanity stored somewhere on the service. You're kind of just nitpicking some useful stuff for you, and AI is cooking, some nitty-gritty answers if you got the right question, right query, right answer. And then I start being a lunatic, so I start being notorious in the company talking about AI, and people oh yeah, okay, whatever, AI again. Yet I started making coding again because previously I used to be a programmer and started making coding again. Well, with the ChatGPT, it's easy peasy. I never been a Python developer yet. I can make a Python code. Let's move further. So then, the right questions for this presentation. Can AI help to succeed in game development? Yes, indeed. Will there be jobs for creative people in the future? Yes, yes, indeed. Can we make our life more fulfilled? Spend more time on something enjoyable? spend more time on crucial questions instead of like just making routinely boring stuff? Hell yes. Just one thing that is, I've been like, going from door to door in our organization and talking with the people, like how you can use AI potentially. Are you using the AI right now? And the answer was like, literally, well, this is an interesting, flashy toys. It's interesting to play with, but I can do much better than AI. That was a standard answer. To be honest, yes. But we have to look deeper into the concept of AI, because if we use AI as, let's say, like Copilot, right? Something that is helping us out to facilitate our creative process, it's good or bad. The good side of this that you get all the resources, all the right answers, like with a clip of the fingers. The bad side of this that, like, the practicality of those answers, it can be very, like, approximate, very standard, iffy, which is a lot of people getting those answers and say like, man, I can do much better. I mean, I have no arguments. People can do much better than AI in some circumstance, right? Especially if they have like a big background of doing something for like, years and years. And then like, interesting word is an approximation. So if you could imagine the like neural net. So we have the input, right? And input is like observations. I don't know, it could be anything. Like observations is mostly like your prompt. Then we have hidden layers. Like we have just one in this like particular example, but it could be much more. And the GPT model has like, like a bazillion of hidden layers with all the perception neurons. And then you processing information, and all these perception neurons making the like a gradient descent and say like yes, no, and then you have an output, pretty clean. And all these relied on the data sets and like learning process. Actually, this is a formula, like mathematical formula, and it calls like approximation, right? It stands from like, the, generally speaking, it got the answer, it got the like query, but imagine someone in a dark room sitting, having some information in a head, and then like someone whispering the queries and you answering those queries. This is how AI is doing. So the real power of AI is just rely on this process of like approximate information and try to replicate this on a massive scale. This is what the management doing, right? Because what we're doing is like, yeah, we can do like, pretty great successful day. More than that, I think, you want to have a successful year, right? Or a successful life. And you have to replicate certain cases, day by day, hour by hour. You make it the same thing over and over again. You guys are in feedback, you make the milestone planning, you make a recaps, and then like start over again. What if you can replicate this and make an approximation? And the approximation is not like at the end, you not get here the best ever possible result. No, hell no. You get something that makes sense. And this is how the neural networks works. Which is why garbage in, garbage out. If you make like some prompt engineering, I bet you're doing some prompt engineering, you can make much better, like, like decent answer or like, great answers ever. And yet, if someone will ask the same question, the same prompt, this person will get the same answer, right? Almost the same. It depends on the temperature of the GPT model, but anyway, it's almost the same answer. The real power, real beauty, is to make an automation. And automation, I mean, if you're doing some Python, or you like, have a plan to do some Python, well, you can make automation, like pretty simple automation or complex automation. Doesn't matter in this case. But the automation, you take in the concept of approximation, and then you said like, well, at the end, right here, what I really need is something that makes sense, which is relatively good outcome. Not best, not iffy, not meh, just relatively good that, kind of works for my solution. Then, let's take the ingredients of the successful game project. So what's a successful game project? I don't know how many of you making games. How do you think? What makes the game successful? How you can set up a pipeline of successful games? Any thoughts? Crickets. Yeah, because the successful game is something that you cannot replicate, right? You see in the studios making one game successful as heck, and then the next one is evolved, and the successful game template, like blueprint, is the myth. People trying to come up with a solution that they can rely on. Then again, the successful pipeline is make the experiment, define your MVP, and then reiterate as many times as you hit the target, right? So you're just moving forward, trying and fail, not necessarily fail. Maybe you will succeed from the first time or from the second time. But in most of cases, you're just trying and fail. This is a template, like a blueprint of successful game project, of successful life, as you wish. But at the end of the day, well, it's not a pleasant process, right? When you're failing, well, you think I'm miserable, I'm stuck. Why I'm here? And I spent like that, man, I don't know, 10, 12 years of my life. It was a long time I've been in this situation, why the heck? And trying and failing. The one thing is measurable. How much time you spend on this try and fail process? I spent in 1 year, 3 years, or 1 week, or 1 day, half an hour, 1 second. This is deviation. If you can spend less time, you can do much better, right? Maybe in a month you will have another fortnight, maybe. I'm not saying that you will, but maybe. And here we are, talking with the people. Not framing this as what beautiful, nice thing AI can do for you, but more or less what kind of time-consuming activities you have during the working day. And this is a simple interview on the surface. It looks simple. In reality, it's very complex because people start thinking differently and saying well, the most time-consuming thing for me is to put my stuff together, or doing everything good, doing everything from ground up to the end. And then we dive in deeper. No, let's take each activity in particular. Are there any things that you think is 80% of your day? And then you can identify something which is time-consuming. Sometimes it's bureaucracy with documentation. Sometimes it's perfectionism. Sometimes it's just a stupid old ways to doing something and people wasting time. Then you have 20% of something exciting, like an ice cream for kids. Yeah, this is a good good work. But with that being said, you can improve with AI all the miserable and useless processes. Man, that's a long presentation. So I will skip some slides because I thought we can talk like this all day, but no. So the simple problem with AI, you can make the implications, but pretty simple, and you can save your time, more and more time to make a critical decision, experiments, creative process. This is the true beauty of AI. So you can convert this solution like automation to microservices, and this is what I did. And so far, I think I have pretty good examples for you. So I have 5 minutes just to uncover some of those examples. So let's say this is AI with an interface of the Discord bot. I wrote the whole thing. It's on a virtual server. This is a Discord bot. You asking the question, framing this as the right prompt, your role, what is the source of information you want, and then you got an answer, right? So as a producer role, as the artist role, as a communication specialist. And then at the end of the day, it's not the the complex things. It's most vectorized data set. But you have translated all the user reviews, put this in a vectorized data set, and then you run queries. And because you make an embedding, and you can read about embedding, then you make a semantic search in the vectorized database of all user reviews. Then you pick the most relevant because you're making embedding, and then through the language model, you have the response. And this is how we're doing this, and more people engage in this because it's like effortless reading of like 1,280 reviews, user reviews. Multiple languages, doesn't matter. And people using this service is pretty practical and using time saving. It's massive time saver. And I see more and more people kind of querying this. More than this is what I'm doing, and I'm doing another service. It's like, well, you can make the reading of the code. So can you imagine the working day of the programmer? And you start like, what the hell is that? Like, cell, what up, man? Oh, I'm lost. I'm lost already. And then you ask, like, what the hell is that? You have a description. Moving further, you just select and say, like, and what the hell is that? Because, I barely seen it. And you have, like, pretty sufficient explanation. Well, this is this and that part of code. And then you say, like, well, my code is messy. I think it looks like a bookshelf. Unbearable. I mean, I cannot read it. And then say, like, make me refactoring. And you start making it, right? Maybe it's not the best ever refactoring yet. This is a refactoring, like, happening in seconds. And then you said, like, well, probably for my colleagues, I need the MD document of this class. And then, in a matter of seconds, you get the MD document. So, speaking of the programmer working day, you can make this day much more productive if all this boring stuff can be automated to some extent. To some extent. I'm not saying that everything has got to be automated. I'm just saying that with your hands, with your brain power, you can do this much slower because of capacity. And you're wasting your brain power on routinely and boring job. So the old school management is like planning, controlling, feedback, acceptance process, start over again. New school, I think all that, but more or less, like pattern identification, right? What kind of patterns you have? Automation. Can you automate those patterns? Like, automate to the extent that you have predictable results. Then, microservices creation. And then you can expand this to the whole team. So I think the future of the management is someone who providing the microservices based on like any like large language models, any like neural network models, but you have to be a little bit of programmer, thinker, and think about the microservices more than how you can handle this or that situation, because uniqueness of the situation is just superficial level, and then you're going deeper and you see in patterns. It happened to you over and over again. New people come to a company and say like, well, this is new for me, but someone has met those patterns, right? And you can support those people. Facilitate this process. Yeah, and this is a Q&A. Whew, right on time, in 20 minutes. Yeah, if you have questions, please go ahead. I'm dying to answer those questions.
Thank you, Mike. If anyone has a question, just raise your hand.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Dmitry. One quick question about security. I know it's a large concern for many companies because unless you have your own machine learning model, you use some third-party stuff. So a lot of people are disturbed if they, for example, give their code to this model and it goes somewhere to an unknown place, especially when we're talking about ChatGPT-4 model. It's not an open AI now.
Yeah.
So what do you think about that, and how does your company relate to this?
I understand. Actually, the GPT-4 is an OpenAI playground, but you have to switch to the chat model. And then you get the access for the 4. This is a sensitive question. So, like, let's say I would be brief on that. First, it's not recommended, right? The sales numbers, anything. It's not recommended to pass it over to any model. The second one is prohibited to pass over any personal data because this is a little thing called GDPR, right? So you're not able to do this. The solution to that, so you can write this is how I do this. You can write the Python code with an obfuscation. So you have the data, which is like tinyBuild, releasing the hello neighbor, and then you just make an obfuscation to extend that, like, unicorn incorporation, make the game, which is called like something something. So you can obfuscate as many data without any large language models, just on the script level. And then all the obfuscated data, you pass over to the language model, get it back, make the reverse process, and then you have the clean data. Well, it's, sometimes it's not works as I expecting, but if you could lower the temperature of the GPT model to 0, you will have almost the best outcome ever. More questions?
Any more questions? Any more hands? No? Okay, I have a question then. One second. Could you share what big or small mistakes should be avoided at all costs in this industry, just from your experience?
You mean the game industry or AI?
In your industry.
Okay. Yeah. Bravado. Yeah, this is the biggest issue. So if people being obsessed with a perfect image of the success and start being converting this to bravado, which is on the understandable level, I will succeed because I'm thinking so. The brutal reality, you will meet the brutal reality at some point, and people who obsess with the bravado usually more suffering than the people who are just being agnostic and trying, looking, experimenting. So just, dig a big hole, put all the bravado stuff, and, put a lot of, ground on top. Forgot about this thing. I was personally did a lot of mistakes driven by this thing, so it's painful.
So how do you think should people do that? Because just to put it in an imaginative whole, it's taking responsibilities. Sad thing happens. I mean, the shit can hit the fan. You cannot do nothing with this. I mean, especially if something is just out of hands. But then, if you can find which parts you were responsible, and those parts can be handled better, well, you're on the right path. And then, if you, all you can say is, this and that person, in charge, I'm blaming those people, they are kind of, make me, unsuccessful, so maybe something wrong. Maybe you can find out something that you were responsible on and say, well, let's make this unsuccessful case just, for all of us, not for me, not for you. If you can be sincere and clearly identify, I was responsible, and then I failed on this and that, parents. Well, I think there's supposed to be less and less bravado, after all. Thank you very much.
Oh yeah, I see one question.
Okay, actually we're out of our time.
Oh man!
But we have break. So if you don't mind, okay.
Let's have a tomato juice and talk about it.
Hey Mike, thanks for the talk. Very inspiring. My question is, can you give more examples of how you use it actually in your day-to-day work? So I understand you mentioned a review reader which helps you sort reviews, and also Python code refactorer, maybe something else.
Yeah, so it's a lot of stuff on the way. It's the milestone planning. So everything that you can replicate. So you have the template of your standard document for game design, right? You can replicate it on a massive scale. People just writing something dirty and then convert to the real document with all translation and grammar and stuff, and even making linkages. This is one example. The second one, the milestone scheduling. As I said, you can reschedule your milestone schedule each day, each hour, each second, doesn't matter, if you will, if you wish. And then you move it further and further, so you have a lot more implications. Just think about what is patternable, how you can identify that this is something that repeating itself, and then you can automate it. I swear you can find a way. And it's just a few examples, but I cannot waste time.
Cool, thanks a lot.
Awesome.
Thank you very much. Okay, so I invite you to say thank you to Mike by giving a round of applause.
Thank you. You're great.
Thank you very much.